I want to begin with Kemi Badenoch's curious charge that Farage is copying our homework. It's a charming metaphor, but one that collapses on contact with the evidence for who, in truth, has been copying whom. It's rather like a pupil who spent 14 years in the library producing incoherent doodles, suddenly discovering that the boy at the back of the class, Farage, pencil behind the ear, cheeky grin on his face, is getting higher marks by writing shorter, blunter essays with fewer facts and more exclamation marks. Badenoch, incidentally, an exclamation mark is not a good thing to put in an essay. Badenoch claims the Conservatives had the deportation bill first. Well, perhaps, but Farage, as always, is the one who knows how to wave it about in assembly and gets applause. And sniggers, of course. The Conservatives built the Rwanda scheme, yes, and then promptly fell into the swamp of their own litigation. 4 deportations later, voluntary ones at that, the deterrent became more expensive than a Swiss boarding school education. Farage simply points to the wreckage, paints it in bigger letters, and calls it policy, and even he hasn't worked out the proper cost and the proper procedures. Here's the real problem. Badenoch insists Farage is borrowing Tory ideas, but voters look at the Conservatives and see them borrowing Farage's language. Stop the boats was never invented in Downing Street. It was distilled in the pub at Rallies in Nigel's booming baritone. The party, in desperation, decided to photocopy the slogan. Unfortunately, the photocopier jammed, and the result is this awkward spectacle. Farage says mass deportations, the Tories echo controlled deportation. Farage says leave the ECHR, the Tories mutter, well, perhaps review it. Farage thunders betrayal, the Tories nervously whisper renewal. And by the way, whatever the Tories are saying, the Labour Party are at it as well. Oh, let's leave the ECHR. The electorate can smell hesitation, and in politics hesitation is not statesmanship, it's weakness. And now Badenoch's defenders say she's inherited a mess. Quite right, and it stinks. She has, a mess bigger than the canteen queue at a party before conference lunch break. But the chaos today is not just structural, it's communicative. The Conservative social media posts look like parodies written by teenage interns. A Rachel Thieves website. Cartoon graphics. It could have been borrowed from a year 8 PowerPoint. And Chris Philp filming himself wandering Calais like a lost tourist. When Conservative MPs are reacting to their own party's content with eye-roll emojis, that's when you know you've fallen through a looking glass. It's less strategy than slapstick. And it's all going backwards. The accusation of homework theft is actually more revealing than Badenoch's anxiety. It's more revealing about Badenoch's anxiety than Farage's dishonesty. Because Farage is not copying, he's scavenging. He's a political magpie. What are those animals that run around after the Lion King? I can't remember what they're called now. They make the appalling noise. Hyena! He's a hyena! Snatching the glittering fragments of a failed Conservative policy, polishing them up, presenting them as if they were entirely his. And here is the problem. Imitation is not the sincerest form of flattery. It's the sincerest form of embarrassment and theft. When your discarded ideas suddenly look more potent in the hands of your rival. So, yes, maybe he has stolen some of the homework. But he's not completed it either. It's therefore Badenoch who in a sense, and Badenoch is copying Farage. It's Badenoch who in a sense is copying Farage. The Tories are chasing reform's tail. They're mimicking the rhetoric without the conviction. It's a karaoke populism. The tune is recognisable, the lyrics are half remembered, and the audience, after one drink too many, is inclined to cheer the original singer rather than the nervous imitator. The public see through it, and the public sing along. They know who said these things first. They know who sounds like he means it. And however much one may despise Farage's politics, and I do, one cannot deny he has the swagger, the theatre, the persona, and the words. And Badenoch, by contrast, looks like the prefect frantically trying to impose order after the classroom has already erupted. The crisis is not really one of homework. It's of curriculum. What do the Conservatives stand for? Immigration numbers were at record high when they left office. They can hardly scold Labour without scolding themselves. They rail against immigrant hotels they themselves signed the contracts for. They lament ECHR constraints they themselves agreed to. It's the political equivalent of suing oneself for breach of promise. So where does Badenoch stand? She insists that she's engaged in a policy renewal programme. Admirable, but it risks looking like the kind of committee that spends 2 years debating the font of the letterhead while the building burns down. Her party is financially broke, strategically split, hemorrhaging votes to reform. To accuse Farage of copying is to fight the wrong battle. The real fight is existential. What does the Conservative Party exist for now? beyond being a nostalgia society of a government's past. So let's return to the classroom. Badenoch accuses Farage of copying her homework. She accuses him of copying. He accuses her of copying his. Is that the right way around? Have I got that right? Oh, but the teacher, anyway, the electorate is marking both papers. One is late, covered in crossings out and riddled with contradictions. The other is crude, simplistic, but at least legible. Who will the teacher reward? Well, that's a simple question, haunting the Conservative benches, and unless Badenoch can stop complaining about plagiarism and start producing some work of her own that's coherent, authentic and distinct, then the Tories will not be the stern headmasters of British politics. They will be the pupils left behind staring bitterly at the boy at the back of the class who always knew how to work the room.